Hi, Vet.
Hi, Brittany. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us today.
No problem.
You're our hype woman in the chat.
Yes.
Once Lori is on, we'll get started.
Okay.
We got our first big snowfall yesterday, Vet. We got like 6 inches of snow here.
Where do you live?
I'm in Calgary.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in California,
Okay.
and
Yes.
I'm in the part of California that doesn't get snow, like ever.
Oh my goodness. Well, that would be a nice break. I don't mind it for like a couple of months, but where I'm located, it's just, I live in a cold place. So it's there for, I don't know, till like May.
One of our team members slacked a picture of her snowfall and like having to shovel it and all of that. And I responded with a GIF that just said, "Oh hell no." Because I can't, I'm happy for a
There we
couple
are.
of hours, not a couple of months. And I need to, in those couple of hours, there needs to be a fireplace and hot drinks. So
Yes. Laura is just mentioning that Calgary got like 6 inches of snow.
Oh, I know. We have somebody who lives in Calgary and she always posts pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. It
It's
will be gone by
crazy.
next week, but this is how it all starts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Crazy, crazy.
okay,
All
I'm
right.
going to mute and I will be
Perfect.
in.
Thank you, Yvette.
Okay. We are in a practice session. I'm just gonna reclaim host so that I can get us started. Already? Okay, I'm gonna hit start. All right, our webinar has started. I can see people are joining in. So just give it
Amazing.
a couple of seconds for everybody to hop on, for all of our eager people that wanted to catch us live today. So we will kick things off. We are recording. I always like to drop that in because that's always a top question, whether or not we're recording, so people can
Yes,
catch
absolutely.
replays. Yeah, so we are recording. While we are waiting for all of us to log on, feel free to hop into the chat and say hello. We always love hearing where you're from. We were just having a conversation behind the scenes about where we're all located and the weather. It's always our topical conversation. I was sharing with Lori and Yvette, who's behind the scenes as well, that Calgary, where I'm located, got our first big snowfall. So winter is officially sort of kind of here. The snow will be gone by next week, but this is all how we enter into months of coldness.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so let's kick it off. Welcome everyone. We're so thrilled to have you here for another session with Practice Better. Today will be a really great conversational interview with our expert Lori Kennedy. She's going to be sharing her advice and expertise on how to use automation to create programs to get better client results. Something that I know is super topical and a very buzzworthy conversation in our industry. Lori, I'll let you kick things off by first introducing yourself, and then we can dive into the questions.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Y'all go ahead and tell me who you are and where you're watching from in the chat. I would love to know how long you've had your business for, where you're at, just so that when we have this conversation, I can make sure that I am really customizing it to who you are and, where you are at. So, oh, hi, Carolyn. Hello, Carolyn, and hello, Melissa. Hello, hello. So if you're just joining, say hello in the chat. I am Lori Kennedy. Hello, Julie. Hello, Tina. Hello, Teresa. There we are. Hello. I'm Lori. I am the founder of the Wellness Business Hub. I have been in the alternative health world since I was 19 years old. I've never had a corporate job. So I started off as being a personal trainer, and then I became a nutritionist, and I did that full time for 7 years. And as I was growing my nutrition practice, I had my colleagues start asking me, how I was doing what I was doing. And it sort of snowballed very unintentionally into doing what I do now, which is working with practitioners and coaches from all over the world to help them create an online program so that they can start and grow their online business. So that is what I do. I've known Natalie, the co-founder of Practice Better, since we were both in our nutritioning days. So we've grown our businesses for a very long time, and I'm just really, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm happy to share as many tips to make your life easier as possible. We have dozens and dozens and dozens of practitioners and coaches in my world using Practice Better. We are walking them through how to use their online programs with Practice Better. So that is who I am. And that is, I think, what we are talking about today. Yes, this is recorded. There's a replay. And I assume you will get it after.
Yes. Yeah, we'll be sending out a replay straight to your inboxes. And then we also will post this to our YouTube channel. So you'll be able to access it in many different places. So you can always come back to it.
Cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for doing that amazing introduction. As Lori said, yeah, there's a long history between Practice Better and Lori. So it's always, a super big privilege for us to bring her expertise to our community. So today we're going to be talking about automations for your program, how you can use those to create a really wonderful program and get great client results. So we have a few questions prepared for Lori to, glean some insights and some expert opinions from her. So I'm going to dive into those today and open up this conversation. The chat box is open. So if any of you have questions along the way, please feel free to pop those in. Yvette is helping out in the chat as well, and we'll pay attention to the chat in case there's any questions we want to call out and answer as well.
Yeah. Y'all, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm happy to address them as we go.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, let's first set the tone. We hear a lot about programs in the health and wellness industry, and why do you think why is this such a buzzworthy topic? Why is this the topic of conversation amongst so many people right now?
I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One, because technology allows us to have it. I think when I started running my program, tech was in 2012, which was called Wow Weight Loss. Tech wasn't easy. Right? It wasn't easy to create a website. I don't know that, I'm sure funnels existed, but there was no automation. It was very clunky. It was very difficult. So I think the innovation of technology has allowed us to, it's allowed us to create what we've always needed to create in the alternative health space, which is an alternative way to practice. It's having a program, whether you run it online, whether you run it in your clinic, whether you run it in your clinic or online, it doesn't matter. The idea of having a program as an alternative option of care, in my opinion, you can absolutely have it as your sole option if you want to. But having it as an option, as part of your business, as part of your practice, gives you this container to be able to really include all of the elements that we know clients need to comply. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how smart we are. It doesn't matter, what modalities we have or how many pieces of paper we have. None of who we are or what we do matters if they don't comply. None of it matters. Right? You can have the newest, innovations and the supplements and the IVs and the testing and the whole nine. But if they can't follow through with the recommendations that we're giving to them, like taking the supplements, like coming every 2 weeks for an IV, moving the body, eating the food, right? Breathing. the way that you want them to breathe, if they're not going to do that consistently, it's literally all for nothing. And so having a different structure by which you support your clients where they can come in and create a community with people who are struggling and suffering just like they are, where they can get coaching, which is not a skill set that is taught unless you are a health coach or a life coach. They can get community, they can get coaching, they need to be held accountable, they need to be able to ask questions and get support on a fairly instant basis. And the model that we were all taught does not allow for any of that unless you do it outside of your paid time, which many of us do. And the aftermath of that is being overworked and resentful. And the clients still aren't getting what they need. And so it's just very interesting that it's actually taken this long to have the alternative option of running a program versus only seeing clients on a pay per time sort of use, right? And to be clear, that's not to say that one-to-one care isn't necessary or important. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that only operating that way and not having the alternative option for both you and your clients isn't an ideal scenario because you're not able to give them what they need inside of that 60 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever, so that they comply.
Yeah, you said a couple of things that really stuck with me. And I'm going to actually give a little bit more context. I was a part of Lori's WBA back in
Were you really?
Yeah, back in 2017. I actually have a binder behind me with all of the things printed out.
Stop.
Look at this, everybody. This is
Oh my gosh, that's
my
so
WBA
funny.
binder. Tons of information. So Lori is very much the real deal. And that's why it's so awesome to have her here talking about programs today. But the couple of things that you said that really resonated with me were working beyond your time. And oh my gosh, that resonates with me so much because I was fumbling around with the tech side of things for so long with the program, trying to do a plugin for my WordPress site where I could have a membership style login, all of the stuff. To the point where I was not making even minimum wage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your passion is robbed, and that spark that got you in this industry, which I think a lot of us share, starts to kind of fade away because we're so bogged down trying to figure out how to make this all work. And I think that is kind of a nice segue into this next question. Creating a program doesn't have to be, but can be really time consuming, especially when practitioners are having to keep their lives afloat. They need to be able to pay the bills. They need to be able to keep everything running, but they're also needing to carve out time to make these programs in order to get to that point where they're working and earning what they should be. So how can practitioners set up online programs to maximize, the impact to justify the time in the creation phase?
Yeah. So if you know me at all, if you've been in my world for any length of time, you know that I'm never going to BS you. So with that being said, it is going to take extra time upfront. We have data from thousands of practitioners that tell us that you can create an online program in 8 to 10 weeks. This isn't a number that I just decided to pull out of my hat. We have the data because that is the average time that our clients in Zero to Clients complete from scratch their online program. And they do it in about 10 to 15 hours a week. It takes about 8 to 10 weeks. So with that being said, if you can sort of think about carving out 3 months of time and allocating additional hours, on the weekends, at night, in the morning, there's lots of people that also sell done for you programs if you wanted to even start there and customize from there. But if you wanted to create the protocol on your own, it takes about 10 to 15 hours a week for 8 to 10 weeks. If you can, we've had people bang it out in 2 weeks because they worked, 8 hours a day or whatever. So just know that that's about how long it takes. Now, in terms of creating it and sort of carving out the time and saving time, I think what happens is a lot of people don't understand the process of even putting one together. So it feels very overwhelming, right? Like you said, the tech, right? They don't know the tech. They don't know the process. They don't know sort of how much content to put in. They're trying to create these fancy slideshows with these videos and 57 handouts per module. And it has to be designed. And none of that is true. And none of that makes you more or less professional. Let me be clear. What makes you more or less professional is how easy it is for your clients or patients to follow it, because that is the only thing that they care about. So if you have, hour-long modules with 57 pages of PDFs that are beautifully designed, and you're only giving them 7 days to implement because then 7 days later they get a new module, they're not going to have the best experience. And therefore they're going to look at you as well, this didn't work. That's unprofessional, right? If we want to sort of redefine what it is to be a professional, saving time and getting it done means having a minimum viable product. It means using audio recordings and a Google Doc to start, right? No one cares if your pages are professionally designed or not. And when you are going to put together your program, I think it's important from the outset, even before you start, that you understand how the patient is going to experience it, right? So that you understand, what are the first couple of emails that they're going to get? How are they going to download it? The client-patient experience matters so much, which is why having it in Practice Better allows the patient full flexibility over everything. They're not having to log in and out of different platforms. They're not having to search their requisition forms are in one spot. Their invoices are in one spot. All of the things, the trackers, the video, everything is in one spot and really easily accessible. So I think that if you want to create an online program, I think having an example for you to model is really important. So if you have a colleague, or I'm sure you have examples in Practice Better that you can show to people, I think going through one, if you've never been through an online program, you need to go through it. You need to see sort of what it's like from the user's experience, and that will help you to wrap your mind around how you're going to create yours, because the information's already in your head. So that's the easy part. The part where people get tripped up and really overwhelmed is because they actually can't conceptualize what it's going to look like and how the clients are going to go through it. And then they get tripped up on all of these details. And that's what takes, and then, 2 weeks go by because you're super overwhelmed and you're like, well, now I'm busy and I don't have time. Versus just getting a plan, sitting down, banging it out in 8 to 10 weeks, and then, putting it up in Practice Better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we, as a whole, I'm speaking in generalities here, but I think there's this thought, like you said, that we have so much to create. And I want to help people reframe that perspective, that a lot of what you need to encapsulate for your program, you already have created, because you're already making the same recommendations to your clients, especially if you've niche and specialized. So start to think about what are the things that you're commonly telling your clients, and how can you package it up in a way that you can deliver it as a program to more than one client, or even support your one-on-one client work. But a lot of this stuff doesn't need to start completely from scratch. You have all of the resources likely that you can just kind of package in a new way and start to kind of maximize impact of the things that you already have. Yeah.
I want to address Melissa's questions here, because I think they're really great, and it sort of parlays into the actual automation. So we've had thousands of people go through my and work with me in Zero to Clients. And so what I can say is, and this is just like a best practice, you want to create for two things. So the way that you want to set it up and deliver it is want to think about two things. One, the lowest common denominator, meaning that what's going to work for the person who is the least tech savvy, the least understanding, the least compliant. Because if you create for the lowest common denominator, everyone else will have a great time, right? Everyone else will be like, this was amazing and it was so easy to follow and blah, 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 right? And then secondarily, you want to create for scale. You want to create today as you want to end off it next year. So what you can do, and the question that Melissa's asking is a really good one, that everybody absorbs information differently. Some are really tech savvy, some aren't. Some want to use email, some want to log into a platform. And so if we think about it from a singular person's experience, right, the lowest common denominator, and then we think about it, if you were to triple or 10x your client base, right? Think about having 500 active clients all emailing you at once because they can't find the email from week 3. Right? Think about that. And then you have to find out who they are and resend them the email. And then it goes into their spam account and they email, and like 3 days go by because now it's a Friday and they're pissed because they didn't get the grocery list from week 3, right? So really thinking about it like that. So if you can send them emails that have the majority of the content in the email, and then also link them to the site so that they can log in. And this is where we talk about user experience, right? Maybe in your initial email you send to them, there's a little video that you host outside of Practice Better, maybe on like a unlisted YouTube channel or something like that, where you're literally walking them through like a tour, and you do it from the perspective of, this is the email you just got. In the email, you're going to see this link, and you literally share your screen and here's how you log in. Here's how you click when you forgot your password. Here's where you go to find the thing. Here's how you reach me. Like, you give them a tour before they ever log in, right? That's providing, like, in the way that we teach it is, that's part of your onboarding. You're onboarding them into the platform, because most people, you're right, like most people get really upset and they get really frustrated. And so if you onboard them well, then they won't, right? And so I want you to think of, 1, the lowest common denominator, and 2, what happens when you 10x your client base, right? When you have, 10 or 15 clients now, it's no big deal. When Jenny emails you, you're even going to email back on a weekend, but I guarantee you at 500 clients, you're not doing that, right? Or even 100 clients, you're not doing that.
It's so true. Whenever I'm doing webinars, I always try and encourage, especially the people that are fairly new grads or new to the industry, to think about the business that they want to have and not what they're currently working with, so that when the opportunity comes to build momentum and scale, they have all the systems in place. I thought, it would be good to just kind of follow up with some Practice Better insight for that question as well. Yes, you can deliver email only modules through our programs feature. So you can have a nice mix of modules. And there's also, we have webinars based on client onboarding where we show an example module or program to support the onboarding, like Lori just said, because we know that tech is not for everybody. There's a learning curve, and you don't want people to be turned away just because they can't, figure it out. So we have resources to help you support that work. There's even ways that you can customize the video that your clients are going to see when they first log into Practice Better, where you can personalize it and make it your own. So lots of different opportunities to support that learning curve, and lots of opportunities to kind of switch up the delivery method, or, keep it in email for certain things, maybe like a meal plan, have it sent right to them, and have other things housed right in platform, and walk people through it. I really like that advice of the lowest common denominator, so that you're kind of catering to the person who is the least tech savvy, and then it's going to be perfect for everybody else. That's really fantastic advice. Moving on to our next question. Is there, in your perspective and expertise, automations that can be involved in the creation of programs? We're obviously a big fan of that type of work at Practice Better. We're always looking for ways to automate or streamline workflows. So how can we involve that in the creation phase of programs?
Yeah. So I think for us, so we also want to keep it really simple, because once you understand the logic of how these types of platforms work, you can make it really extreme and you can make it really complicated, but then they break, because tech, no matter how good it is, it will break. And then you have to fix it. So I think in terms of time-saving automations, what you want to do is, of course, you're going to have, your new client automation, right? So when you enroll a client into your program, you're going to have, the onboarding automation set up, right? This is that welcome email that I was just talking about. Perhaps there's a link to a video outside of the platform, so that way, as they watch the video and then they log in. You can also have automation set up that after, their login, they get another email, maybe with forms or something along those lines, so that you're not having to manually send them anything. And this comes along with you, even without the platform, even without knowing if the platform can or can't do it. If you could wave your magic wand and have the entire experience mapped out for your clients, then you go back to Practice Better and you say, here's how I want to lay it out. Like, show me how to do it. So we recommend automations that automatically check in with people every other week. So there's an email, there's a little note that gets sent. Do you have text messaging capabilities? Yeah. So text messaging capabilities that, you can set up every week, every other week, once a month, right? And you can change the content. So it can be just like a simple check-in, or it can be sort of a more detailed accountability, right? Another automation is perhaps letting them know that there's coaching calls, right? So a lot of reminders. These are things that when I go to a practitioner in a clinic, and I guess because I'm super familiar with tech and I love tech and I just don't understand why everyone's not using it, because it just makes the experience so much better. When I go see my massage therapist, my naturopath, my osteo, my colonics person, not a single one of them has ever sent me, because I can tell if it's automated, a month later, hey, it's been a month since your appointment. How are you doing? Actually, that's not true. The only person that does that is my chiropractor, because I made him use automation. So I was like, listen, but not a single person, right? So there's all of these, like, every well-intentioned thing you would like to do, there is an automation for. You can have it for clients that leave the program, and you can follow up with them afterwards. You can send out reminders that the coaching calls are coming up, right? You can do midpoint check-ins. You can, like, anything that you want to do, you can basically do, and then you don't have to remember to do it, because automation lessens the mental load that we all carry, right? There shouldn't be any remembering, oh crap, this person's on week 3 and I forgot to send them the check-in. Like, that should never happen.
Yeah. Yeah. What's so nice is that everything that you're saying can be built in advance, so that, like you said, you can eliminate that mental load, so you can focus on just keeping things moving along, the coaching, the support, all of that. But I mean, all of that can be automated, and there's so many features in Practice Better that you can use to achieve that. So whether that is, an email check-in or a form where you're actually taking some kind of metric so that somebody has you know, a look at how they started and where they got to at the end. Follow-up reminders, all of that can be done and built in advance so that when you launch your program, you get to kind of just stay in the lane and not be like pulled in all these different directions, like you said, forgetting, because we are prone to that. I can remember those days of being like, crap, I forgot to send this client this form, and now this intake follow-up or, you know, whatever got muddled because I was late delivering the form and then they were late returning it, and then it was kind of haphazard. So all of these things to think about during that creation phase is not only the content, but the touch points too that you want for your clients. It's not only going to save your sanity, but it's going to really enhance the client experience so that they're getting better results as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once the program has been developed, you know, the focus does shift to getting clients and onboarding them into the program. So what advice do you have to enhance this process and make it a really incredible, I know we kind of talked about it, but a really incredible experience for both the client and the practitioner?
I think the important thing is to run a beta test. You know, I think a lot of people get a lot of professionals stop themselves because they think that it has to be perfect out of the gate. And I can guarantee you it won't be. Like, I can guarantee you that you're going to run, you know, a couple people through it and you're going to change it because you are no longer the patient. You are no longer the client. And so it might sound simple to you to just do these 7 things, but really it might take your patients 10 weeks to implement these 7 things. And that's okay, right? That's okay. You just have no way of knowing. So I think the best thing that we, you know, recommend all the time is get it done. Like, just get it done. And then put 5 to 10 beta testers through. It's not to make a ton of money. That's not the point. The point is to have them evaluate and audit the program, to give you feedback, to say, this was really hard to follow. This was really great. I wish there was this. I wish there was that. You know, to see their results in the program. And then that way you've given yourself the opportunity to test it. You're no longer nervous about it. You've made the adjustments, and now you can go and sort of launch it to the public feeling really good and confident about what it is that you're offering. Renee's asking, is a beta test complicated to do? No, you just literally tell people it's a beta test. And the other good thing about running a beta test is that it does take the pressure off you, right? One of the things that stops so many practitioners is the fear that it's not going to work, right? The fear that it's not going to work and they're going to, you know, charge people money and then it's not going to work. And we're like, we know it's not going to work 100%. That's why we're beta testing it, right? We want to be able to come openly and honestly with integrity to say, hey, I'm running a beta test. I've just created this program. I've not put anyone through it yet. You know, the fundamentals are there, but I just want to see how easy it is to follow. Right. And we're honest about it. And so that alleviates the pressure. And then that way, when you go and you launch it full on and you continuously promote it inside of your clinic or on your social media or whatever, you're doing it knowing that it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think feedback is invaluable and something that feels uncomfortable for people. Well, we can automate that too. So you don't have to worry about getting to that point where you're asking for feedback and then chickening out. You can just automate the form to collect the feedback and not have to worry about it. But it is really invaluable and just offers you a perspective outside of your own headspace where you're in the thick of it with your program and you're having a hard time seeing outside. My partner always says, like, you're too in the cornfield. You can't see the field because you're too in the corn. So use that silly analogy, and yeah, beta programs will just give you that extra perspective. And you can really easily duplicate programs in Practice Better so that when you are working on that beta one, you can still be working behind the scenes on the one that you're actually going to bring to market and launch. So you can be working in tandem on these 2 different ones. You don't have to wait for the beta test to be finalized before you then kind of edit that one. So very simple to just duplicate so that you can, in real time, be making changes along the way. All right. let's talk about a big one when it comes to programs and just client work in general. We've already touched on this a little bit because it comes up naturally all the time anyways, but let's talk about client accountability. Worth noting that this can be a struggle, and we put so much work into like validating the idea, creating the program, running the beta test, and onboarding just to have people fall off track. And that, of course, can have ramifications beyond just that client not finishing. You know, this can be the difference between getting a word of mouth referral or not. So if you were to kind of encapsulate your best ways to hack or increase client accountability, what does that look like with a program?
There's a couple of things. Number one, I said before, you know, accountability is so important, and it often comes in the form of just caring. So sitting down and saying, okay, you know, how would I like to hold these clients accountable? Like what do I want to be known for? Like, how do I want them to feel supported? And at the same time, creating boundaries, because we don't want to have a codependent relationship with these clients, right? We don't want the expectation to be that you're available all day, every day, and even on the weekends, because that's not realistic. So what accountability really is holding someone to what they said they wanted, right? That's what accountability is, holding someone accountable to the goal that they set for themselves, which sometimes means putting up a mirror and saying the truth, right? And so not enabling them, not allowing repetitive behavior, but really, really supporting them through change, which is difficult to do. And so with Practice Better, you know, when somebody starts the program, the automation will kick off, right? When somebody sort of logs in and they pay, that accountability can kick off. And so you can have text messages, you can have emails, you can have reminders. Some of them can be, you know, pretty generic. And then other ones can be, hey, you're on week 4. This is where people usually A, B, and C. If you're struggling with any of those, reply and let me know, right? And what we find is that when you call out what you already know is a challenge for most people, and you tell them that this, you know, it's normal, they will feel validated and not like they're doing anything wrong. And so they're more likely to show up and ask for help. So with accountability, it's a combination of caring, it's a combination of coaching, it's a combination of validating. And when you can do that, you will have better compliance for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, there's a really great comment in the chat as well that bringing the client back to their why is you know, a really important piece, and that can be hard to define at the beginning of the program. So that's maybe where you're helping the client define that, and maybe in the first module, maybe that's something that you add and something that they can come back to again and again. Well, that was incredible insight. Thank you so much, Lori. We have about 10 minutes to welcome questions from the group that is here live. So please hop into the chat. This is your opportunity to have your question answered by our program expert. So
yeah, there's one here from Taylor. It says, what platform do you recommend setting up automations for a beginner? So I think it's important to look for an all-in-one platform. You know, we're obviously here from Practice Better, so it would make sense to explore that as the option. What you're looking for is a platform that can do most of what you want to do, which is why Practice Better is really powerful, because it does not just the sort of virtual practice, but it has a lot of the marketing elements and the automations that are really important, especially if you're going to offer this online. So I think making sure that whatever platform you choose, sorry, I have something in my eye and it's really bothering me. I think it's important that whatever platform you choose I've made a lot of mistakes with platforms because I followed the trends and I didn't understand really what it was that I needed. And I ended up wasting a lot of time and a lot of money having to move from platform to platform because I started out with the cheapest one. But the cheapest one isn't the best, right? The cheapest one has very limited functionality, it has limited features. And especially when you are a clinician or you have, some type of practice, you need to be able to have all of your client data in one place. You need to be able to log in and have the invoices and the receipts, your client notes. You need to be able to, see how many emails they opened. You need to be able to see the automations they're getting. You don't want to have to log in and log out of 7 different platforms in order to run your business. Because that's just a waste of time. Melissa saying, you mentioned having automations, for example, checking in on a client. Do you need it set up under each client's profile? Ideally, I would like to have weekly emails. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, so you can set this up so that this is going to your entire program registration list, or even, if you're doing this outside of a program and you want to touch point to all active clients, you can certainly do that to the broader group. While it still feels very personalized to the client, they will not know that you are, doubling down your efforts and messaging all of your clients at once, because we have a feature called placeholders in Practice Better that pulls information from the client record so that you can still address them by name. You can still make it feel very personal, but you're messaging as many clients as you want at once. So there's various different ways that you can check in with a client, whether it's very casual through just a secure chat message, whether it's a more formal email, or whether it's a form where you're actually collecting data back from them to understand kind of where they sit at a certain milestone in your program. But for all of those different methods, it never has to be individual client by client.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
And I think that's really important. And there is a learning curve. Like, let's be real, there's a learning curve, However, if you can acknowledge, or if you can sort of push back the instant gratification of like pain, do you know what I mean? Like, if you can sort of push back and think out a year from now, even 6 months from now, once you get into the platform and you really start using it, you start to understand these things and it becomes much easier, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Taylor is asking, are the automation features available to all plans in Practice Better, or just the higher tier ones? So there's kind of 2 different ways to answer that question. If we're looking at like truly the automation feature that you can use, or some of the things that we've spoken about today, some of those are reserved for the higher tier plans. But because this is kind of a core philosophy of how Practice Better operates, finding ways to be efficient and automate and kind of streamline things, a lot of this work is kind of entwined in all of our basic features. So for example, when you're setting up a service, there'll be notifications that go out automatically to your client to confirm, or if you reschedule or have to cancel, things of that nature. You can set up forms to go to your clients recurring. So if you're doing a check-in and you want them to happen, you can schedule secure chat messages. So there are ways that you can stay on a lower tier plan and still make use of these time efficient features. But as you get up higher into our higher paid plan tiers, you'll get more robust levels of automations that you can start to use. One other thing that I often will say when I'm doing these webinars is that we're a really robust platform. And when you're first getting started, you can keep it really simple and really basic. And as you get your feet on the ground, you'll start to kind of find opportunities of places that you'll want to automate. And that's maybe going to be the thing that pushes you to enhance your plan or upgrade. But it doesn't have to be that you're diving in to all of these really advanced features right off the bat. Because like we keep kind of coming back to, there is a learning curve and you don't want to kind of inundate yourself with everything to the point of overwhelm. So you can kind of dip your toe in the water and slowly make use of more and more features as it feels kind of organic and natural to do so.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, until you have more clients and until you need those, like you don't need those higher levels of automation anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Melissa is asking if you do email only module and the client gets emails for the program, if they also have a login portal in Practice Better, can they access all the emails in the platform still? No. So if you're choosing to do a module that is email only, there's not kind of a duplication of that they can access that would truly go to their email inbox. So that's something that you'll want to keep in mind, that if you choose that route, they'll need to refer to their email inbox. You could certainly kind of have a resource library where you still house things for your program. So if you want to kind of consolidate all the resources to be able to access it through the platform, you could come up with a kind of a resource library module in your program where everything lives, but they just still get the messaging and the initial delivery to their email inbox. So just an idea for you on how you could execute that, Melissa.
I wouldn't do email only, to be honest.
Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend that.
I think that the email only modules serve a purpose beyond the education, content sharing, and resource delivery. They're great for doing check-ins with your clients, a great way of automating that process. But as far as housing a place of the resources, in order to keep it a really efficient and great experience for your clients, like you said, Melissa, people are going to want to come back to those resources. It's not going to be a situation where they view it once and they're good and they've kind of got it all in their head. So having one place that the client can refer back to access all of those resources is an important consideration. And as we all know with our email inboxes, like we all get a lot of emails and things get buried and they're hard to find. It's hard to even search the right word to pull up the email that you want. So yeah, I think the email only modules, just from my take, but you can always use them to your own accord, are fantastic for doing a client check-in, and then keep the content modules where you're delivering education, content, and resources.
Yep, I agree.
All right, we have just 5 more minutes before we wrap up. So good opportunity to get any last questions in for Lori. And then we will kind of wrap this up. So we'll just do a last question call. Pop your questions in the chat if you have them in this last couple of minutes here.
I think the important thing to remember is, yes, the tech is new and there's like so many different options, but again, we want to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Right? We want to keep everything that we do with our clients as simple as possible. If I do the module style without email, can you set up emails for reminders of meetings?
Yeah, a lot of the reminders for meetings will naturally come when you set up the meeting. So those are kind of integrated into the setup of group sessions or one-on-one sessions, whichever you're running, so that you don't have to actually like plan to do reminders. It's just a native part of setting up the meeting in itself. You'll see that there's notification options during that setup that will go out to the client to remind them. So let me just, I'll pull a help article link. Bear with me a second here so that you have that, Melissa. Okay, so this article will just kind of walk you through notification preferences so that you can see how you can kind of customize those alerts to your clients. So if they're registered in a meeting, you can see your options there.
Amazing.
Great. Okay. Well, I think we've kind of exhausted all the questions from this live group. We will be delivering a replay, as I mentioned earlier. This will live on YouTube, so you can always come back to this session, rewatch it. There was a lot of valuable little tidbits and nuggets laced throughout this session. Thank you all for carving out time in your day to be here, and especially to you, Lori. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your expertise. It's always a pleasure to bring you to our community. So
amazing,
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.